It's the end of October 2024, and I'm sitting at a coffee shop in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where my boyfriend and I were at for a college football game that he was working at. I opened my PayPal account and recognized that, holy shit, I've just made the most money in a 3 week period of time. It wasn't even 3 weeks, it was 2 weeks and 5 days that I've made in any month in my business for the 8 years that I had been in business. And I'm looking at my PayPal account, feeling this joy, this excitement, this elation, and also wondering what the hell happened. I knew in that moment what had changed. My commitment to showing up how I desired and how it aligned with my lifestyle, showing up in full self expression of who I am and no longer hiding what I thought or felt, even when it come down to politics, and choosing to show up how it worked for me, homeschooling my kids, being around them much more often than I'm used to, at least since January of 2024, and doing work the way that felt good for me, and which I've actually worked less the entire month of October than I worked ever at any point in my business. There were days that I would go and not even open my computer these last couple of months. And the ones that I did open my computer, I would only work maybe an hour or two a day. And most of that was just serving clients. And looking back on the past couple of months and my commitment to express my views and opinions and be real and be me and not hide behind me anymore, and doing the nervous system practices to show up and be resilient despite having been canceled in 2020, despite having gone through this period of contraction, despite experiencing burnout in my business, doing it in ways that didn't feel aligned, that felt much more like a push and being a flashlight than a lighthouse, if that makes any sense. And what has happened has been quite remarkable. And today I want to talk to you specifically about how to make a comeback after burnout and really awaken your feminine power. So tune in and I'm going to share all about it. Welcome to the Multi-Orgasmic Millionaire Podcast, where sexual liberation meets financial empowerment. Join me, Tilly Storm, top 20 sex coach worldwide, on my own journey to becoming a multi-orgasmic millionaire through the mystical art of sex magic, financial savvy, and guidance from my very own mystical yoni oracle. I'm going to reveal how I'm turning orgasms into cold, hard cash. Get ready to dive deep and discover the secrets to living a life of abundance on your own multi-orgasmic terms. I'm recording this a couple of days post 2024 United States election, and I'm sure the whole world is aware now that we've elected Donald Trump into office. And I shared recently my excitement about his picks for his administration, specifically RFK, and helping our nation to become healthy again, which is super important to me and my family. It always has been. And it was something that even when I was 16 years old really mattered to me, because I knew even back then that our food companies were poisoning us and they weren't being held accountable. And the most amazing part about this election, whether you like the man or not, whether you voted for him or not, whether you think he's a racist, misogynist, fascist, blah, 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 whatever the fuck else, whether you like him or not, he ran one of the most amazing movements we have ever seen in our lifetime. He unified independents and Republicans. He was working night and day, tirelessly going to 3 to 5 rallies towards the end of his campaign, and the man made a huge comeback, despite what the media has told you, despite what you believe about him. He's made a comeback, and I think there's something that we can really learn from that, from the movement that he has led. And right now, I want to share with you 4 ways that you can make a comeback after either being burned out, maybe losing your ability to self express due to fear. Both of those happened to me because I was quote unquote canceled by a group of women that were really close to me for several years. Back in 2020, during the election period going on then. And for 4 years, I didn't want to touch social media. I didn't want anything to do with it. I hated it. And I'm just now recognizing that so much of myself went into a small little hole and didn't want to show up and self express. And if you follow me on Instagram at tilly.storm now, you will see that that's no longer the case. And I realized that I have made a comeback because of the safety and the resilience that I've created in my system to feel safe to show up in self expression no matter what people think about me. Once I shared my excitement about the election on my Instagram page, I immediately lost about 50 Instagram followers. My following isn't that big on there because it didn't show up really for years on there. And I've seen so many other entrepreneurs, coaches who experienced thousands of unfollows on their accounts simply for sharing their excitement and opinions as well. And it's really sad that we live in a world today where we can't have space held for differing opinions and views anymore, where you're just cut out of someone's life because they don't agree with you. And I really hope that we can come back to a place of being able to have discussions and be able to hold differing viewpoints. But I see it kind of as the world is splitting right now. Like the world is just splitting, and it's almost like people live in 2 different realities. I mean, essentially, we all live in our own reality, but on a bigger scale, it's like there are 2 types of people in this country, and they are living in completely different worlds. And one has just not woken up from the mainstream media programming that I pray to God is held accountable for their actions one day. And if you too have experienced mockery or being slandered or being called terrible, terrible names on social media by people who didn't agree with you, no matter what side it was on, then you may have experienced this hiding, this wanting to crawl in a hole and never show up. And it's really difficult when it's your job to show up. I have continued to show up on my podcast, but I definitely didn't share much about my personal story or my opinions because of fear for being taken down, fear that my accounts would be deleted again, fear that I would be called out by people who I didn't have any control over say bad things about me on the internet. And they do, and that's okay. I've gotten over it now. But if you want to come into full expression, to reclaim your power, your sexual expression, and your full self-expression to be fully you, then the first way that we do that is by cultivating nervous system resilience. This is where I went into a freeze response for several years. And it took a long time and a lot of nervous system healing and vagal nerve toning to create enough safety in my body to hold all of the backlash that was inevitable when I started sharing my opinions and my views and the things that were important to me. I'm not here to make anyone happy. I'm not here to make sure everybody can accept me. That's not my job. Whether you like it or not, you can unfollow. So you can follow if you want, but it's not my job to make people like me. And creating nervous system resilience was about understanding that no matter what, I like me. No matter what, I love me. No matter what, I've got me. No matter what, I approve of me. And I give myself permission to be all of me. And stepping into your feminine power, that's not possible if you don't fully love and accept every part of yourself. The second step to making a comeback after backlash or experiencing burnout, which I also experienced several years ago in my business, is that you have to mature your inner masculine and feminine and discover your yeses and your nos. If we think of our heroine's journey and the start of that journey, it always starts with a no. Kelly Brogan really explains this in her book, The Reclaimed Woman. So I will give credit to this concept as she outlines in the book, but she describes it through one of the stories in Women Who Run with the Wolves. It's a book by Clarissa Estes Pinkel, or I don't know how to say her name, but anyway, it's a very popular book for women. And in one of the stories that she outlines, it's about a maiden's tale of how she loses her hands and she grows her hands back. And it's a very interesting tale. And as she weaves the tale in with her own teachings and her personal journey, she shares about how when a woman is looking to step into her full feminine power and no longer be a victim, she has to find her no first. And her no is often ignited by a big life change or transition where you just draw a line and say, I'm not doing this anymore, or I'm not putting up with this anymore, right? And for me, I had a couple of big no moments in my life. The first one that was huge for me was when I got fired for not wearing red lipstick to work at my city planning job when my second baby was a baby. And my big no moment was, I'm never working for anybody ever again. I will always make my own money and not depend on that for a living. And eventually, you move into your yeses. And your yeses can feel a little more challenging to discover. And sometimes it takes a long time, and that's okay. After my burnout in my business, I didn't start discovering a yes until about 2 months ago. A no, my second no moment was operating my business in the way that I used to do it, where I used to work nonstop. I used to build all of these funnels. I did all of this back-end stuff, which I'm very grateful that I did. And it's allowed me to create systems and structures to where right now I hardly have to work at all. But the fact that I took all of that on, I didn't have anybody help me out with it. I didn't ask for help. I didn't pay for help. I didn't hire people to do it. I look back on it and I said, that was dumb. I should have had people do that for me. And I knew during that period of burnout that I could no longer operate my business in the same way. And it took years to find a yes. My yes came knowing that I wanted to upgrade all of my content. I wanted to create new content that includes a lot of the transmission that I now carry because of my own experience of burnout and having a comeback. Because it is part of my story, and I am growing and evolving. Maturing your inner masculine and feminine is required to discover your no's and your yeses, because we cannot continue to operate from the old stories and programming that our mother and father passed down to us. Those versions of us aren't going to lead us into the next level of pleasure and abundance and prosperity in our life. And we are required to learn how to hold space for all parts of us, which is maturing our inner masculine, and therefore being able to experience our femininity, but in a contained way. The feminine, when it is uncontained, is dangerous. It's chaotic. It must be contained. And therefore, we must develop our inner masculine in order for that feminine to fully thrive. And when we develop the inner masculine enough to hold the divine feminine inside, that's when the yeses become hell yeses, and they feel so juicy and so luscious, and you feel so alive and vibrant. And when that happens to a woman, that's when she starts to step into number 3 on how to make a comeback after burnout, which is her radical self-expression. When she becomes full hell yes. she feels safe to express herself. And as you see, if you go follow me on Instagram at tilly.storm, that has happened for me. Full self-expression, radical self-expression, sharing my opinions and views, knowing I'll probably get negative comments on this episode, knowing that I will likely have people one-star my podcast. I will probably have many people unsubscribe from my email list, and probably a dozen or so Instagram followers unfollow me. I don't fucking care anymore. I don't, because I found my yes, and I know that my people love and respect me for who I am. And if they don't, they can go away, and that's okay. I'm not for everybody, and I'm not here to make them happy. So stepping into radical self-expressions, owning who you are, sharing your excitement about things, no matter whether or not other people can handle it, because many of them won't, and that's okay. Once you're stepping into radical self-expression, the fourth step to making a comeback after burnout and awakening your feminine power is expanding your capacity to have more. Expanding your capacity to receive more pleasure, more joy, and abundance than you thought was ever possible. How does that happen? It happens by being in your body and knowing that you can hold it without freaking out. I'll give you an example of this. When I used to have a really big month in my business, the first thing that would happen is I would go open an Excel or a Google sheet, a Google spreadsheet or whatever they call it these days, and I would look at all of my finances and I would figure out exactly where everything needed to immediately go before I didn't have any more money again. Because I would expect to not have any money after I paid everything. I would expect to just be broke again. And recognizing that pattern in myself, I eventually started to question, and I was like, why do I do that? Why do I just expect that I'm not ever going to have money after I pay for everything that I need to pay for? And then I'm just going to be back to square one. It was like this game of catch and chase, catch and chase. I'd catch up and then I have to chase more. I'd catch up and I have to chase some more. And I realized that my capacity to have really sucked. It was baseline, almost negative. I couldn't have. And it's only within the last year, around January-ish, that I've created the capacity to have and hold so much more in terms of investments, so many opportunities that have opened up for me investment-wise recently that I'm super excited about. And being able to have and hold more, it's interesting because you don't recognize that anything is different. When you start to have more, it's like, it feels normal. And when it feels normal, it's like, oh, that's because of all of the work I've done on myself with all of the creating nervous system resilience that I shared as the first step to making a comeback after burnout and awakening your feminine power. Because of all of that work, it didn't feel any different. Having more didn't feel different, and it won't. When you have created a new baseline of safety in your system to have more, having more doesn't feel strange. It doesn't feel new because you've been practicing it for however long, and it just feels normal. And that is exactly what I'm here to teach and to help you upgrade and up level. I told you in a couple of previous episodes and after my pleasure challenge that I was creating a 6-month sex goddess mastermind. And I have discovered that originally I had thought that I was just upgrading the content of my signature sex goddess program. But what is actually true is I'm creating a whole new program. There will be the sex goddess group program, and I will keep it as is because it works and it is amazing for women who lack desire and pleasure in sex and who need to work through their triggers in relationship so they can communicate effectively about sex with their partner. And that program is specifically for women who are struggling with their sex lives. What I am creating now, the new program, isn't actually that. And I've discovered through this own journey of transformation that I've been on that this is actually the Sex Money Honey program that I have been wanting to fully launch since March of 2024. And the way that it is different is that it is specifically for women who are not in their feminine power. It is for women specifically who have come across a block in their creativity and their ability to receive more money, or they have a block in putting themselves out there so that they can receive more money. Maybe it's in their business, maybe they're an artist, an entrepreneur, a coach, healer, whatever, and they're not putting themselves out there because they have gone through a period of burnout, not wanting to show up for themselves. They probably know all of the strategies and all the things to do. You don't need a freaking another thing to do. You've probably done all of them already. For so long, I thought, if I could just find a business coach to tell me something I don't already know, I will know that is the one that I need to work with. You know what? I looked around, I shopped around, I did the discovery calls. I couldn't find a single damn business coach that could tell me a single thing about business that I didn't already know and wasn't already doing. It wasn't that I needed another strategy. It's that I needed to come home to me. I needed to step into my feminine power. And that is exactly what this program is about. I will not be teaching you any business strategy. This is not a business coaching program. This is a step into your feminine power, make a comeback, step into your full self-expression so you can experience more pleasure in the bedroom and in your life in general. So you can have more money, more of whatever it is you want, more joy, more happiness. And we're going to be doing that through these 4 steps that I just shared with you: cultivating nervous-system resilience, maturing your inner masculine and feminine, discovering your yeses and nos. Number 3, stepping into radical self-expression and expanding your capacity to receive more. This is what this mastermind is about. And I'm so excited. I've already got a couple of women enrolled in it. We're not starting until the first week of December. We have time. And if this is something that you're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need, then I want you to go to the link in the show notes, fill out a short little application. I'm going to take a look at it, see if it sounds like you're someone that fits, the profile of who I'm looking for to bring into this mastermind. And if so, then I'm excited to get on a call with you and talk with you about whether or not it's the right fit for you. I'm super excited to see you on that call. I hope and I pray that if you are a woman who is experiencing the blocks sexually, entrepreneurially, and you have not created a capacity inside of you of safety to have and hold more, then you need to get yourself to fill out that application. I know it's scary. I know there's a lot of reasons why you might think that this isn't for you and you can't do this right now because it's Christmas, it's the holidays, and I'm too busy and blah, 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 blah. No, stop. Stop. That is exactly why you're going to continue to live in this place of not moving forward with your life and never really stepping into your feminine power. It's costing you money. It's literally costing you money every day that you do not step into your feminine power. So do it now. Go to the link in the show notes, answer a couple of questions, book the call, and I will see you there, Hot Mama. All right, excited to talk to you soon. Bye.